Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. Currently I can't really do a lot of videos outdoors because actually my right foot is in some kind of a plastic boot because my Achilles tendon is really sore and it needs to heal. So I'm stuck into that thing for about 4 weeks and actually had to make myself a shoe for the other foot so that I can at least walk some. But it's too boring just to sit around and watch Netflix and Amazon every day. Therefore I decided to entertain you guys with a little project that you might find helpful. As you know, the Adder is like my favorite crossbow because of the magazine. Actually, this is the 5-shot original magazine, not the 7-shot one that I developed. And this is a model of the Cobra R series crossbows. It all started when I got my hands on the R9, actually the first iteration of it, that came out in 2019. Now the R9 was a really breakthrough little crossbow. As you see, it's like a halfway between not a rifle size crossbow and a pistol crossbow. You can still shoot it with one hand, I guess. And it has this underlever cocking system that I really loved the moment I saw it because it makes it so easy to cock it. But it is single shot, so I developed a magazine for it, and actually then the Adder was born and it's mass produced now. But a lot of people continuously ask me, how can I put the magazine on my R9 or the RX, which came out later? And it's actually not really easy normally because you need welding gear and skills. And most people don't have that. So I'm trying to find a way how people can do this with just normal household tools. This means you still need like an iron saw and you will still need like a drill, but you won't need welding gear with the conversion that I'm showing you. And it's not quite the same, but it is coming very close to the Adder model then. But first, let's look at the differences. And for this, we first take off the magazine from the Adder, because all the differences are kind of underneath the magazine, because they're of course used so that you can attach it in the first place. All right. So the first very apparent difference is that the lock here is a lot shorter than the lock on the R9. As you see, the R9 also has this kind of anti-dry fire system in here, but all this would definitely prevent the bolts from falling through the magazine, falling down into the groove. So this is something that we must change. We must actually make this into this, which, as you see, is not so hard if you have a metal saw. So the front part is held in place by these metal strips here that are hooking into the counterparts here in the groove part. So it just hooks in and you slide it backwards. And these parts are missing in the R9 version. Yeah, as you can see here, the R9 version just has no hooks. And this is typically the thing that people can't do, because you would actually have to weld these parts to this here, and this is absolutely tricky and only for people that really have welding gear and skills. So, but you need something that holds onto the magazine in the front part so that it doesn't kind of rattle around, making it very unreliable. And so now today I will show you how to attach and make holders that hold the magazine in place in the front and are attached to the frame rather than to the rail, so the rail will remain unchanged. And what I'm showing you today is the conversion for the 5-shot magazine, because that is cheaply available since so many people bought the Adder with the 7-shot quick loading magazine. So it's of course a much more sophisticated version of it, but this can be had for very cheap, because there's been on the market, and practically people that bought the Adder with this magazine got one of these too, but have no use for it. So you will find it very easy. For example, in the Facebook group that I put the link down there for you, you will find plenty of people that are really happy to sell you their leftover 5-shot magazine. Now the first thing that we do is we remove the front end from the R9, simply by taking out the pin and then removing it. Next, we must remove this front aiming device, because the magazine needs the space. And we're just doing this by removing the Picatinny rails to the left and to the right so that we can remove it. Now that we have the rails removed, this thing can simply be put out. Now it's free. Now next we must cut off the original Picatinny rail and also the rear part here, because we need the space for the magazine. And in comparison we can look at the adder, where you see that this part is very flat, so just only a very small plate is left over at the rear end. And you can do this with the hacksaw. I just do it with my coping saw. And now we can use a file to make it a little bit thinner. Okay, like this. Next we must cut off the front part of the lock, and you see I marked this here. You have to do this just a short part just behind the little hook that grabs the string. So about there. If it's too long, you will later on not get the arrows down. So make it just about as precise as this one here. So that's it. It works. And now we need to take out this little metal piece here in the magazine. Okay, just push it out a little bit. And now we can just put the magazine on here, like so, and then slide it backwards. And the magazine, as you see, is in the correct position. But it's lacking any kind of guidance in the front, of course. But it works in the rear. Now for attaching the magazine. Of course, it's normally done with this little thumb screw, and this is an M5 thumb screw, and you can actually get these on Amazon if you want the original. That of course has the advantage that you can take the magazine off in the field without any tools. But of course now you need a drill, like a 4.2mm drill, and a threading tool like a cutter for actually cutting in the M5 tapping. So but a lot of people don't want to do this. You can actually use a normal screw, like a wood screw or something, and you just have to drill it in the right diameter, and then of course you have to use a washer for doing this. So and I will show you both tricks now, the dirty one and the clean one. So this is the screw that I've decided to use. As you see, it's a standard like wood screw, and this is a 4mm by 35mm screw. Now if you want to drill in a hole so that this actually bites in aluminum, you gotta go about 0.5 mm thinner than what is stated for this. So this is a 4mm screw, so we have to drill a 3.5mm hole into it. But first we must find the right spot for it, and therefore we're starting with a 5mm drill, because that fits through the hole, and we just drill like a little bit into it so that we have actually a little dimple into the metal, and that's gonna center our drill nicely later on. So we take a little washer, it can be a little bit bigger than this one, and attach it. And now the magazine is basically on it, and it's already like functional. The only problem is that of course here in the front, as you see, there is play. So this would be actually really bad for the performance. There must be a way to make sure that this isn't really going down. Specifically, when you repeat, then there is more play in the system and you see how far you can lift it off here. This is a no-go. So the idea is that we actually attach a guide rod to about this position here, a wooden piece that actually makes sure that the magazine is always in the same place, but it will stay attached to the frame and it will then move back and forth, guiding it from below and from above. So it's really like clamped in. Now if we want to do it the clean way with the thumb screw, the original thumb screw, then of course we have to drill 4 millimeters into it, and then, or 4.2 millimeters ideally, and then we will have to use a tapping drill. So that's one of these M5 tapping drills. Let's put some WD-40 on it. It's not oil, but it works anyway. Okay, so as you see, now we have the original one on it. The first thing that we do is we remove the little guiding steel plates from this here, since we're not going to need them anyway, and they're in the way of what we are going to attach. Now the guiding parts that I'm going to make will be made from 18mm plywood, and I trust that very quickly you will be able to get those from one of the 3D artists that we have, like Lukasz Janikowski maybe, or someone else, because of course sewing them out in plywood is not so easy. I actually provide the exact specifications, so like the blueprints for it, and anyone who wishes can then make them. Now we're gonna install them like so that actually they will be attached here in the rearmost position. It will just be here, and therefore what we have to do is we have to remove a part of this here. So like the front part has to go to make room for the wooden holders. Okay, as you see, I removed these parts now. This is of cotton vent, so that you can't put your finger up here, but this little part missing won't make a big difference, I think, I hope. And this is the shape of one of these holders, as you can see here. And I'm going to saw it out, and actually you can do this with the normal jigsaw. I'm going to do this on my coping saw. And of course, probably these parts will be available for 3D printers later on. And you need 2 of those. So here I just clamped them on to see if they fit. But as you see, they're actually holding the magazine in both directions. They're making sure that the slot is not squeezed down too much. And as you see, the magazine cannot move at all now. So I can move it back and forth. Of course, now it's limited by the clamp here. But as you see, it works and it has very little play. So this is going to be very safe. Now what I like to do is I like to put small screws through the layers so that they don't come apart when I actually later on attach it to the frame. And now we'll need 2 4mm holes through here so that we can attach it to the frame. Note that I'm drilling a little bit at an angle into the wood so that it's not going to split apart too easily. So now it is basically finished. As you see, I can move it back and forth and it really doesn't have any play because it's clamped in both ways, so it can really not move at all. So this actually works perfectly well now. So what we can do now is we could actually spray paint it, but actually that will take time to dry, and it will also actually add some thickness, so it will actually throw all of our measures away. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to burn it and oil it, and then it's going to be black without paint. That's it. It's black now, isn't it? So now our little conversion is basically finished. And we can now load it up with the arrows. Okay. Okay. Magazine fits 6, but the manufacturer recommends 5. All right, and now it should work. Let's check it out. Yes. Okay. Bang. And bang. And by the way, I found out that one arm is actually sufficient. You don't need the arms on both sides, which gives you the advantage that you can still field strip it. Otherwise you would have to take one arm off to do that. But you know, both arms may be a little bit more secure, but it works just fine with just one arm. So I loaded it up with 5 shots. This still has the disadvantage that it only has the 90-pound bow front end, while the arrow of course has the 130-pound front end, and also it lacks the fancy metal red dot sight that the arrow has. Okay, let's empty the magazine. 5 shots. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. Empty. And of course now I cannot cock it because it can't be cocked on an empty magazine to prevent dry firing. So that's it, the little conversion. It's not really that hard, don't you agree? I hope you liked it, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye bye.